All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of Planning and Zoning to order, and we're going to start with our roll call.
Jim Giroux.
Here.
Daryl Whitworth.
Here.
Jeff Lawrence.
Here.
Cindy Scroggins.
Here.
Tom Musselman.
Here.
Holly Rickert.
Here.
Tim Dooley.
Here.
Steve Thomas. Janice Menking.
Here. All right. I don't see the public comments actually on the agenda on this one. Should I do them now? All right. It's the time when anyone here wants to make any comments about items that are on the agenda or anything in general. Limited to 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone here who would like to make some comments? Yes, sir. Did you sign up? You got it right there. Bring it on up.
As I said, I'm the owner of 901 North Milam. 903 North Milam is on the agenda today for a small renovation. I am in support of the project. I did want to voice my concern over the amount of difficulty this person must have experienced trying to do a CUP for what is a small renovation. It seems like a frustrating process for such a minor addition. So I would like to voice my concern from the development community that the process probably needs to be looked at a little bit for something like this. But as far as the project goes, I'm in support of it. So thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else here who'd like to make any comments? Do you have anyone online?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Then we will go to item number 4, which is public hearing. I will be stepping down for that one. So, Mr. Dooley, if you would take over.
Sure. Thank you, Janice. We're on item number 4A, which is public hearing. Request number Z2229 by Scott Horton to consider a conditional use permit for section 3.120 to operate a STR condominium in a R3 multi-family residential zoned area for property located at 510 Muller Street, unit number 23. I'll entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Motion is made and seconded to go into public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Who might be here to make the presentation? Saw you were hiding behind the book.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time. My name is Scott Horton. I am the owner of the home at 510 Mueller, Unit 23. I know in my particular case with this conditional use permit, it's been pushed back a couple months due to availability of, I live in Dallas, so thank you for hanging on for me. So I just kind of wanted to go through all of the items that have been sent to me by Shelby and her team. Maybe one by one we take them, and I'm able to kind of show in some photos that I took, as well as speak through why I feel I meet the obligations to get approval on the CUP. So, Shelby, if you don't mind pulling up Anna, one of the photos, so we can take them in order. This one here, the first of one of the items that was brought into question was overflow parking. This shows one lot right here where there's about 3 or 4 spaces. You scroll down, we'll come back to that one. There's a couple more overflow spots there. About 5 or 6 more there. A couple more there. So, in total, I counted them up on the plan, the site map, and it shows about 15 overflow spaces for the community that, quite frankly, is very quiet. And I rarely see anybody park there. For my home right here, as you can see, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and I'm required to have 3 parking spaces for the home. There's my garage right behind that SUV there, as well as 2 SUVs in the driveway, easily within the parking region. So I think that requirement for 3 parking spots is met with that being shown there. If you scroll back up, please, to the moving van. Another item that was brought up is the narrow streets. Some of these streets are 30 up to even maybe 45 feet wide. From my time as in construction, I work in commercial construction, and I know that the requirements for cities for fire access are 20 to 25 feet, and that's for a fire truck. So we are even above that amount throughout this neighborhood, in particular in front of my home, which you can see the driveway right there that's empty. A couple other things that were pushed or brought on to my attention that I'd like to speak on. That no STRs are active on my block, which is true. I have 4 homes total on my block. I really only have one true neighbor, which is directly to my east. His name is Daniel Hinch. We hit it off right when I moved in because he's from Dallas, as am I. And when I spoke to him about renovating my home and possibly using it as an STR, he was in full support of it. I've also had several couples in the neighborhood come by and speak to me directly and in favor of the STR as well. They say, they're happy to see new people come in to the community. And, all of them were very excited for me when I brought this up. And, unfortunately, I weren't able to get them here to speak, but that was another thing I would like to bring up. And then even as early as this morning, Mr. Ray Ortegan came by my house, who works for the city of Fredericksburg, and I discussed with him. He said, "Hey, are you the owner?" I said, "Yes, sir." And we started discussing this short-term rental process, and I brought up all of the items that I've just spoken to that were brought up as hurdles to get through to get the CUP approved. And he looked around and, in his words, said he did not see anything that should be a problem nor a violation. He hasn't heard of any issues with my home. I think he was there to do a check on what we had was brought to my attention last week on me already having this space used for a short-term rental, which is true. When I purchased this home, on the Zillow ad itself, I'd been looking for a place to live down here. We love to visit here. We love the city. We love everything about it. And I wanted to be able to have a space that I could come visit for myself, as well as use for others to use for a short-term rental. So I have a vested interest in keeping this home safe, clean, not having bad neighbors, people come in and causing problems for the neighbors. So Daniel has even himself offered to keep an eye on that for me. I am also running for a board position within the Carriage Park Homeowners Association. So if I am selected, my first order would say, "Hey, if there's an issue with my home, please call me directly. My number's on the website already. If there is an issue, please call me. I'll be the first one to take it seriously and get the problem fixed." So I have 5 other homes that I property manage in Missouri with no issues, 0 issues. In fact, I've been doing it for a couple years and I haven't had any problems at all. So other than people breaking things in my own home, which that's my own problem to deal with. So, I would just like to say that we have a vested interest in this. We're not using this as a place for people to just go check out. I'm hands off, a third party management type system. My number's right there. If they need to call me, if there's an issue, I'll handle it directly. And we plan to move down here someday. So, this home is more than just a rental for me. I want to keep it nice. I love the neighborhood that I live in. The neighbors that I've met have all been great. So I want to be the best neighbor I can and keep this rolling in the right direction. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Good, okay. The staff, you review this, please.
Hang on.
Wait.
Let's see if it's on. Yeah, see if there are any other comments. then close the public hearing.
I thought.
If no further comments, I move we close public hearing, go back to regular session.
Motion been made and seconded to go out of public hearing, back into regular session. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5060. 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7.
Seven.
Have to count myself. All right, here we go. Staff,
Thank you.
would you
Thank
make
you, Scott.
presentation, please?
Yes, sir. So the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate an STR condominium in an R3 zoned area on property located at 510 Mueller, unit number 23. The proposed development would include a 3-bedroom, 2-bath STR unit, and the property is located in a condominium development, Carriage Park, that currently has 4 STR non-conforming properties. These are units 9, 10, 13, and 16. All 4 of these were approved prior to adoption of the 2022 STR ordinance. And as of November 25th, 2022, staff has denied 4 STR condominium applications for this condominium. The units numbered are 7, 8, 12, and 23, as they require a conditional use permit prior to issuance of an STR condominium permit. If the homeowners association or condominium association wants to allow new STR condominium permits, a plan for which remaining units are eligible should be presented. This is due to the fact that the definition of an STR condominium is a short-term rental located in a complex or housing group that's part of a declared or recorded condominium regime. And the definition of a hotel or a motel is temporary transient lodging services involving the provision of a room and or beds containing more than 8 rental units. So we bring this to your attention because we've currently received applications for 8 short-term rental units in this location, 4 of which have been denied. 1 is before you today for consideration of a conditional use permit. So I think it would be important to get the condominium association or the HOA involved to identify which properties they would allow to operate as a short-term rental to ensure that we're meeting the definition of an STR condominium and not a hotel motel, which would not be allowed in an R3 zone area. The subject property is located with a condominium development that consists of narrow streets and contains a total of 36 units. The block unit 23 N does not have neighboring STR uses. Rather, it is surrounded by residences or vacant units. Allowing a new STR would result in an incompatibility with existing or permitted uses on abutting sites. In addition, the condominium development consists of narrow streets that would not comfortably accommodate overflow parking. And staff has previously received 3 complaints from neighbors located within the condominium complex for parking and traffic concerns dating back to July 31st of 2021, and these have been included in your packet for your convenience. A single-car garage is shown and clearly identified. However, unfortunately, prior to receiving these photos, the site plan provided did not adequately show what we were looking for in the parking on site, nor the dimensions of the parking spaces. So we had some concerns about that, but I think that's been addressed through Scott's photos. Thank you. And then in addition, staff has identified that this property is currently renting as an STR without a permit, which is a violation of section 5.401. This section of code states that any property operating as a short-term rental without a permit shall be prohibited from receiving a short-term rental permit for a minimum of 1 year. Regardless of whether or not they request to obtain a permit, the first step in that process would be to get the conditional use permit first. So staff thought it would behoove the applicant to go through this process and initiate that starting point. As presented, the proposed STR condominium use does not meet the requirements of a conditional use permit. The subject tract is not located within a block with STR uses, nor is the development able to accommodate overflow parking into the street or sufficient parking on site, which we have now identified as no longer true. This information, coupled with the multiple complaints received for traffic and parking issues, as well as the property status as an illegal operator, staff recommends denial. And we did receive 3 responses to public comment. 2 have been provided to you, and 1 I received right before I left the office. And it is also a protest submitted by owner of Unit 1, 14, and 15.
Okay, thank you very much.
Question? So just to make sure I'm clear, it is currently operating as an STR without a permit in place and without a conditional use permit in place?
That is correct.
And his fine's been levied?
He is working through the notice of violation process now.
So my question's about the HOA agreements.
We received their HOA agreements to know whether HOAs are, whether STRs are permitted within their HOA framework?
No.
Is that something that the owner can provide so that you can review that to see whether STRs are permitted or not for their HOA agreement?
Doesn't really matter.
It matters after a year.
After you.
So
Oh, yeah,
if-
exactly.
So if the penalty is a year because of operating without a permit, we still have the issue of after a year.
Yeah.
It's going to come back to a permit. I would like to know, because part of our process on the permits is if the HOA does not allow STRs, then we're supposed to respect that the HOA does not allow STRs. This entity has an HOA. We need to know whether they permit them or whether they ban them, not just for this one, but for any other applications that we receive.
And they have to designate which units,
Um,
not to exceed 8. Is this correct?
That would be staff's recommendation because of the definition of a hotel motel versus an STR condominium. We would like for the HOA to tell us which units would be designated and eligible for a short-term rental permit because they're only allowed to have 8.
That's on the
Also, has this unit, this is unit number 3,
correct.
and have we denied a permit? Am I reading this correctly, that we have denied a permit to unit 23 in the past?
Yes, ma'am. That's what started this process
It
for
was to
him.
you or another owner?
Yes, ma'am. He had started the process. He requested an STR application, and staff identified that it was in a condominium regime, which put him in this process.
Are we up to date on hot taxes for this unit? Have they been paying hot taxes?
We submitted a request for that information, but I have not received a response yet.
From who did you ask?
The hotel occupancy tax specialist?
Okay.
You paid hot taxes?
I have been collecting all of that and ready to cut a check right now if I need to. And I could address all these other questions as
That's
well
a
if
no.
I may. Sorry,
That is a no, you are not paying the tax.
I have not paid yet, no.
I'll make a motion, we deny this request. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny this request. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion is.
Am I able to address any of the questions that were brought up?
Nope, we're
I think
done.
we're finished. Thank you. Madam Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Dooley. All right, let's go to public hearing 4B. Request Z 2232 by Matt Durrett with Cozy Vacation Rentals to consider the following.
I move we go out of regular session into public.
You're going to do that before I read all this fun
Yeah.
stuff?
Are we going to stay in public hearing for all the rest of the public hearings?
Oh, we're doing it individually.
Okay. I'll withdraw my.
We're going to do number 1, future land use change from low density residential LDR to mixed use residential, mixed use corridor at MUC for property located at 106 East Nimitz Street, and 2, a zoning change from R1 single family residential to R2 mixed use residential, R2 mixed residential for property located at 106 East Nimitz Street. I'll entertain a motion to open this public hearing.
I move we go into public hearing.
Motion by Tom, a second by Jim. Jim. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, Mr. Durrett, you here? Yeah, there you are. I should remember you from all the public hearings. Yes. Public hearings.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you, Shelby and Anna, working through this process. So we originally started down this process, I believe, about two months ago or so with Anna and Shelby. We were looking to get the property to understand what it would take to get it zoned C1. After we met and did a feasibility study internally, ran a cost analysis, what it would take to get Nimitz all the way down there because it is touching 108 East Nimitz is a commercially zoned property right next door on the same street. And those are the only two properties actually on that street. And 108 is just a vacant lot. So we went down that path to look at that. That's just not going to be possible going all the way down there with all the different fire codes, land usage, everything. So we chose not to go on that path. We wanted to look at rezoning it to R2. There is no current plan, right now for the property that we're looking to. It's currently R1. It's a registered short-term rental. It's a 3-2 and it sits on about 0.7 acres. There's no plan, but if you get to R2, so I do own Cozy Vacation Rentals in town, but it's a part of my other company, which is just Cozy Group Inc. And we do landscaping services, lawn care. We own the laundromat in town. I've got close to over 50 employees here, and we were looking to originally, hey, can we have like an operations facility back there? We're right in town. We're near all of our business. We're near everything. We can store trucks back there, facility like that. Again, that's just not going to work out. This is what we're looking for is potentially, and we were looking to turn that front house actually into office space, additional office space. That's not going to work. But we are looking at potential plans, and nothing is set in stone of potential, looking at the R2 code, potential employee housing, things like that. We struggle just like anybody else finding talent around here, but being able to have employee housing, things like that is what we're kind of looking at now. But if you look, behind it is the nursing home. That is R2 to my knowledge, and then everything on Lano is C1, and then 108 Nimitz again is commercial, and then in front of Nimitz is also, so Nimitz stairs, 160 Nimitz stairs right at a commercially zoned property, and I think that's a part of the same owner off of Lano Street. So it's really tucked in back there. It's on a dirt road. It's not even paved. It's very private. It's very hidden. So that's the request this evening. We'd like to get it zoned from R1 to R2.
All right, thank you. Is anyone here who wants to make any comments on this application? All right, entertain a motion to close the public hearing. A motion by Jim, do I have a second? Second by Tim. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Let's go to action item number 5, the discussion, consideration, recommendation regarding Z 2232. Who's doing this one?
Myself.
Shelby, you
Yes,
doing all of
ma'am.
them tonight? Okay.
Thank you, Matt. It was a fabulous summary. Staff doesn't have much to add, except we will provide the specifics surrounding the land use and the zoning. The surrounding property does include a high-density residential use to the north, mixed-use corridor land uses to the east and south across East Nimitz, and a low-density residential land use to the west. And then the zoning to the north is mixed residential, which is the Knopf facilities, with C1 neighborhood commercial to the east and south across East Nimitz, which is also some of the Knopf nursing facilities as well as an office and a short-term rental. And a R1 single-family residence to the west, which is also an STR, and then a primary residence just slightly north of that. East Nimitz is an unimproved roadway with four properties that have frontage along that roadway. The subject tract is the only property in this neighborhood that has primary access on East Nimitz specifically, as the other 3 properties have access on the North Lano Street side. If additional development were to occur, the developer would be responsible for improvements to the roadway, and additional development would also require approval of civil construction plans. Short of that, given the variety of land uses and zoning classifications surrounding the property and the fact that the request is for an extension of the existing R2 zoning to the north, staff recommends approval of the requested land use classification change from low-density residential to mixed-use corridor, and a zoning change from R1 single-family residential to R2 mixed residential.
Thank you, Shelby.
So I do have a question. The residences, the R1s at 1205 and 1203 North Adams, did we hear back from those landowners on this application?
No, ma'am. I received a few phone calls, but no written responses.
And Nimitz, East Nimitz is not cut all the way across. It sure looks like it. I mean,
It almost seems like it's supposed to, but there's
Yes.
a fence that blocks it off. The roadway just ends right there.
Yeah, you can see it. Wow. That would be so
There are two big trees.
An offense, oh, wooden
Yeah.
slab.
Yeah.
So in light of the fact that my new goal for this year is to try to get us more R2s because we really don't have enough of them, I'll make a motion to approve this
Well, I
request.
have a question.
Oh,
So the property on the map at 1108, that is a DeCuffa property, and I know that at one time Tony came in. That's directly behind Lou Awalt's house on North Adams, and that was changed from R2 to the C1. So the question I have with the city, is there a city easement for East Travis? For East Nimitz in place? I believe there is.
Zero what?
A street easement.
street easement.
Street easement.
Here comes the man.
I believe it's public right away.
Okay.
As you all mentioned, it doesn't
Two big oak trees.
the city doesn't have any immediate plans to improve the roadway.
So here's my question: is that if would the applicant have to improve Nimitz Street to city standards if they do anything in here?
We didn't require.
It would
the
be
Cuffers
based
to
on
do it.
what they're proposing.
But the DeCuffas haven't done anything. So my question is, what happens if Tony DeCuffa says, I want to do something with that back piece of property? Would he then have to?
The responsibility would then fall on him to improve the roadway. So whoever develops first would be responsible for improving the roadway.
I think Matt's just asking for zoning to be changed.
Yeah.
You don't have immediate plans.
Correct. There's not immediate plans, and that's what I didn't know is, I think we talked about it. I did have to do something that have to improve, eventually roads to be changed, etc.
Are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm
I mean, you understand that?
correct. Yep. So I do understand that.
You said that's a city right away on that.
I'm 99% sure it's public right away that was just never built out for a street.
Agreed.
But then I guess the issue is that they could always develop East Nimitz as a small street coming in off of Llano Street without being connected to the remainder of Nimitz.
Without connecting through.
Yeah.
I mean,
Not
if you
ideal,
need
but
Not ideal, but
You mean a driveway?
it'd be like a big driveway. I mean, there's a lot of space back there. There's a big lot. And I congratulate you for thinking about housing. As Mr. Giroux said, we do need R2. We need more R2, and we need housing. So
R2 long term.
we need R2 long term.
Yeah, and I know I'm affiliated obviously with Coast Vacationals. I own the company, but this is not going to be an STR development. It's not what we're looking to do here whatsoever. So, that's on public record. In no plans whatsoever. We're just trying to figure out different mixed uses for the property, and employee housing is a huge issue for us. It's a huge issue for the whole community, obviously. So
This has an existing STR permit on it, right?
correct.
Yes.
It's currently an STR, right? Just the front part of that property right now.
And is it a 2022 permit or is it a grandfather 2018?
It's a 2018.
It's a grandfather permit.
Yes,
or
ma'am.
Non-conforming permit.
So to further that thought, what would be requested if he wanted to develop an additional unit for the purpose of a short-term rental, that would require an STR facility permit, which requires a conditional use permit in R2 zoning. So even if the plan were to change or the property were to sell and the new owner was interested in something like that, they would still have to come back through the conditional use permit process to pursue that.
Under the 2022.
Well, once they would redevelop it,
Right.
it would lose its non-conforming use anyway. It'd have to come up. So,
So this has nothing to do with Jerry Lukenbach either.
No, no. I don't even. Does he own something? Is the
The nursing home
that's
directly
right.
behind you, yes.
I think his sister.
Okay, that's true.
Like Mr. Giroux stated, the first special second motion.
Yeah.
All right, I have a motion. I have a motion to approve in a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Motion
Madam
carries.
Chair, can I ask one quick thing before we move to the next state? Or were you gonna, when does that go to city council?
Well, no, there's a question though. Do we have to have two motions, one for land use and one for zoning?
Okay,
Oh,
excuse me
would
then.
you like to
Don't let me
present
interrupt.
your question?
I'll make
make
that
that
different statement.
I'll make the motion again.
We need two separate motions.
Second.
Yes. All right. Mr.
Second,
Giroux,
on the second
How
motion.
many more do you want?
we have a motion for the future land use, Mr. Giroux.
Make that motion.
And was second was by was by Daryl.
Daryl.
No, Jim moved on the first one. I
Yes,
seconded
you
the
said
first.
second. On the second one, on the zoning change, motion was from Jim, the second was by Holly. Is that correct? All right. Any other discussion on the zoning change? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that one. Yes, sir.
This may not be the proper time to say it, so our fair city attorney can address me if I'm incorrect in this, but Ms. Collier, would you please be sure and note in the minutes for the previous action, not the one we're currently on with Mr. Horton, that he admitted in a public meeting that he was collecting hotel occupancy tax and was failing to remit said tax?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. That'll go to city council, please. Thank you. All right, let's go to public hearing 4C, request Z 2235 by Sergio Mendez to consider a conditional use permit for section 6.110 to allow for expansion of a legal non-conforming use for property located at 903 North Island Street. Entertain a motion to open the public hearing. Motion by Jim. Do I have a second? Second by Jeff down here. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Mr. Mendez, would you like to make a presentation? Both of you good.
I'm Dana Mendez. Nice to see you guys. Shelby, if you would mind, I guess, moving forward to our site plan, please. So we're new to all of this. Hopefully we can get our point across. And the good news is I think this is a pretty simple project. We have been operating under permit as an STR for the past several months. We have paid all of our hot taxes, so we are 100% up to speed on that. And really, we only operate as an STR temporarily and in very small proportion just to kind of pay our bills until we can get down here permanently. This is going to be our permanent home, and we've grown ties to the neighborhood, love the city, made friends with our neighbors who are on each side of us are both in support of this project, and doing our best to kind of build those relationships and become a part of this town that we enjoy so much. What we're asking for today is simply to put 3 walls and a mini splint on an existing patio, or use it as a living room. We're not changing furniture. We're not changing lighting. We're not changing parking. We're not changing landscaping. Really, we just want to climate control our favorite part of the house. We think not only will this just kind of help us enjoy, but even just because it's our favorite part of the house, we feel like it's a courtesy to our neighbors, kind of more privacy for us, more privacy for them. So we kind of feel like it's a win-win. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you. That was a very good presentation. And I'm
Like a good husband. My wife.
All right, we'll see if there's anyone here who has it. Is there anyone here who wants to make any comments on this presentation?
I'm going to go out public hearing into regular session.
Second.
Motion by Polly, a second by Tim. Tom. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to action item number 5C, discussion, consideration, and recommendation regarding request Z 2235. Shelby, you have any comments on
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that fabulous summary. The applicant is simply requesting to enclose a 350 square foot porch to create a sunroom on a property that is zoned R1 single family residential. And it does currently have one STR non-conforming unit that consists of 3 bedrooms with 3 parking spaces on site and has a permitted occupancy of 7. Due to the recent ordinance adoption, Section 6.110 requires that all expansions of non-conforming properties go through the conditional use permit process, and that is why they are here with us this evening. As part of our review, we have to review Section 5.460, which is the review and evaluation criteria for conditional use permits, and it contains 13 items that must be considered. Of these 13 items, staff has found that the applicant has met or determined that the proposed has met or responded to all the requirements, including adequacy and convenience of off-street parking, determination that the proposed use will not be detrimental to public safety or materially injurious to properties in the vicinity, and determination that the proposed use and site development will be compatible with existing uses in the vicinity. The subject tract is bordered by residences on all sides and does not share property line with a licensed STR. It is across the street from commercial uses, including a convenience store. As presented, the proposed expansion of the STR non-conforming property in the form of an enclosed 350 square foot sunroom meets the requirements necessary to obtain a conditional use permit, and staff recommends approval conditioned upon no increase in occupancy.
Thank you, Shelby. Anyone have questions or comments?
I have a question about, not particularly this, but if it should apply to this, what triggers having sprinkler permits for the additions?
If it was newly built transient lodging, it would require a sprinkler. But since it's an existing structure, it's not required.
Anyone else?
100%. We don't want, actually, that's against what we want. That's more mess in the house. And
Yeah.
got a daughter. She's 13. She cleans up after herself.
Second.
Motion by Daryl, second by Tom. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Council and 2. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's go to action item number 5D. Request P2225 by Mark Sparrow with HK Fredericksburg to consider a final plat of Friendship Oaks subdivision phase 2 located on South Creek Street. Mr. Sparrow? Anybody who's not here?
Our applicant is not present.
So what do we do?
I move we close public hearing.
Oh, it's not public hearing.
Oh, it's
This
not.
is just a final site plan.
Take no action. I move we take no action.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, a final plat application was received for phase 2 of the Friendship Oaks subdivision, which consists of approximately 26.89 acres of land, with 234 lots zoned R1A single family residential. You may remember you actually saw this on your agenda a couple of months ago, and due to some easement issues, the plat was withdrawn to allow the developer to further work through those issues, and they've now submitted their final product for us to review. The subject property is located on the south side of Friendship Lane, east of the intersection of Friendship Lane and Highway 87 South. Additionally, this subdivision was annexed back in 2018, and the Planning and Zoning Commission approved the preliminary plat for the entire Friendship Oaks development January 6th of 2021. So after reviewing the application, we identified the zoning as R1A, single family residential, and reviewed the lots based on the minimum size and lot sizes. There's 234 lots. There are proposed roadways. Phase 2 has access from the South Creek Street extension and will include the creation of 3 new streets, Darby Drive, Ellendale Place, and Fallbrook Lane, and all are accessible from South Creek Street. Utilities are utility connections that are shown are to utilities that are currently under construction, so public service will not be available until utilities have been fully constructed, tested, and accepted by city staff. There are standard easements such as site visibility, utility, and drainage must be in accordance with the city subdivision ordinance. We have stormwater detention that has been addressed as part of the construction plans. Park dedication, this is a little different for some of the other projects that we've approved, because as part of their annexation agreement, they were allowed to provide parkland as well as pay half of the required parkland dedication fee. So their preliminary plat that was previously approved provides for a 1.69 acre park in phase 1. In addition to the small private park, a fee of $250, which is half of the rate, is required per individual lot. And the project does require civil construction plan review, and approval must be constructed in accordance with the approved traffic impact analysis. Overall, staff recommends approval, conditioned upon approval of the civil construction plans, approved addressing, and added to the final plat prior to recordation. And I can say I'm working with the firm to work through some of their addressing concerns. Parkland dedication for $250 per lot, resulting in $58,000. And responding to all of city comments, which we have yet to receive a response for. But otherwise, staff recommends approval.
One question, R1A?
Yes, sir.
We approved it R1A.
I thought it was 5,500 square feet was a minimum for R1A.
No, sir.
It's 54?
45.
It's 45.
4,500.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Lots 205 and 206. Do they meet the minimum frontage of 45 feet?
No, ma'am, they do not, and that was one of staff's comments.
Okay. So do we put that as our approval subject to that being rectified? Because that's going to have an impact on the rest of the plat when they.
Yes, ma'am. Staff's recommendation is responding to city comments, and if that was one of our comments and concerns, we definitely recommend that.
Okay. Did you have a list of other questions and concerns that have not been addressed yet? Because I don't want to point that one out and by implication ignore the rest.
No, ma'am. Page 91 identifies staff's comments, including a couple of engineering comments. And short of those, no, ma'am.
So this is all, there's 5 phases? to this?
7.
7?
In this thing in total.
Okay. Now, are all 7 phases part of the mud?
I do not know.
That would be something that we really need to know.
I don't know why.
I believe they are. I think so.
How they get the utilities is not anything we have to worry about. But I'm with you. I vote we pass on it until the remaining staff questions get resolved and then bring it back to us. That's my motion.
I mean, I'm watching the development of this every day.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, they're putting in infrastructure. I guess they are, they're going to be they've got, the question I have is part of their infrastructure in the first phase, putting in all of South Creek plus any kind of I know all they're doing for infrastructure is phase 1. They've got pipe on the ground for phase 2, but they're not required to put that in. Evan, do you know that?
They're working on, so they're under construction in phase 1 and 2 for their utilities. For the Creek Street extension, that's a requirement from the TIA by unit count, which they have not reached in phase 2 yet. So beyond this, any development beyond this will require the construction of Creek Street. So this hasn't triggered it yet.
Okay, and
through to 87, I should say.
The 87th Creek. Okay. Then the other thing is the detention pond. That is the first detention pond in phase 1. Goes off to the east onto the Seco property and drains across Eagle Street.
Yes, sir.
And it goes across 2 lots. You look in
the city collector, the big city. You go across Eagle.
It goes across 2 lots at the corner of their development. Apparently.
Back here in this corner, that triangle.
No, it's I think you see if you look at on page. That's not.
We'll have to show it on.
This is the one map right there.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. You see the detention pond, which is part of the 1.9 acre community park. I guess
Oh,
they
yeah.
can go swimming in the detention pond too.
You don't have to
There are
understand
two
that.
there are two lots that I guess I watched them dig the channel that goes into back Fort Eagle Creek. So I don't know with them not here whether those lots are they're being sold or if they're just being, oh, this is the page that's got that shows the so the question there, does that have anything to do with, I guess, with the plat that's been approved, Evan?
Yeah, phase one, we
all
approved back in 2021, didn't we?
Are you talking about the lot that contains the drainage pond
Right.
itself?
Is that a developable lot or is that just a drainage lot?
No, that would be covered by the drainage easement. So it's just a standalone lot that's covered by the easement.
All right, I got no problems with it.
What's the consequence if we take no action?
I know what Daniel was saying about that.
Well, I'd be happy to address that for you. We have 30 days under state law to either approve an application for a plat, including a final plat, deny, approve with conditions. One of those three things has to be done within 30 days. If not, the plat's approved as submitted, no matter what's wrong.
We don't want that.
So I would recommend that you take one of those three other actions tonight, so we don't have that problem. If you do approve with conditions, the conditions have to be set forth specifically, and the applicant has to be advised right away of that. And if you deny, we have to deny based on provisions of the subdivision ordinance and reference those exact provisions in the denial letter, which also has to be provided right away to the applicant.
So my concern is that lots 205 and 206 that do not conform to our minimum frontage requirements, for them to address that, it's going to cause other ripple effects through this plat. So I would rather not approve. I'd rather deny it and have them go fix it and then bring us a clean plat back for approval. I don't like this idea of giving them this conditional approval, but then we don't see the knock-on effects of how the rest of the plats now conform or don't conform. So that's my concern, is that we've got two non-conforming lots in the plat, and I'd rather just see a clean, fixed plat.
How many lots are we talking about, and how many feet are we quibbling over at this point? Just because they're out of compliance
I'm
on
just
the plat.
saying, they could have fixed it. City gave them the thing, they could have fixed it before it came in.
Staff identified 2 lots specifically, but I believe that more in those curvatures, those are what's throwing the plat off, and they don't meet the minimum lot size. So staff referenced lots 205 and 206 specifically and asked them to just provide some clarification regarding that.
Will that do
And
it for you, Polly?
And that letter was sent out January 3rd. And
That
it's
they were
February
supposed to
8th.
address this?
And
Yes.
this is a really tight.
I mean, they're already
subdivision.
small.
These lots
Yes.
are really tiny. We can't give up another 6 inches. So
Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, the letter went out January 3rd. They've had time to address this. They could have gotten back and explained either that they were going to fix the street, fix the curve so they are 45 feet, or do something.
Or get rid of one
Or
lot.
get rid of one lot
and
only have
add
one lot.
more to other
They didn't
lots.
do anything, and they're not here.
go ahead and make that motion, Paul.
I move that we deny
Second.
based on non-conforming lots in the plat.
Motion by Paul and a second by Jim. Any other discussion? In favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Is that sufficient
For denial.
information for the denial? Okay, thank you.
I guess we could add the condition in there plus any other thing that pops up.
Well, no, they'll get the message.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, they
These
were
are
here
large lots
presented
would be
in
one thing.
Bigger.
All right. All right, let's go to action item number 5E, request P 2240 by Christopher Dance to consider a preliminary plat of 528 South Highland subdivision located at 528 South Highland. All right, Mr. Dance, you here? There you are. Would you like to come up and tell us about
First off, did you pay your taxes?
I'm sorry?
When
I
did
couldn't
you
hear
pay
that.
your STR taxes?
No, don't worry about it.
No.
Don't worry about it. It's a joke.
So my wife and I, Sherry Danzy, are wanting to subdivide this little piece of property. It's already rezoned commercial, part of it partially. And I think the city indicated they want some of it to remain residential as a buffer. So that's what's being presented, commercial and residential on this little piece of property. So we want to subdivide it into two commercial lots, Lot 6 and Lot 5. Lot 5 is on the west side. We have no plans for that lot at this time. Lot 6, we propose to build those about roughly 5,000 square foot commercial building, professional type building. My wife and I help with a little nonprofit, Pregnancy Resource Center. We intend to build that building on that Lot 6. And then the other lots there, the residential lots, I plan on building those out myself. Residential R1 as either rent houses or for sale. So that's the plan. Pretty simple. Anything else, Shelby, that I need to mention or add to that?
I think you did a great job. It was a wonderful summary. You may remember that the property was partially rezoned to C1 in 2022, and the property has since sold with the intent to further develop 6 lots. Lots 1 through 4 retain the R1 zoning that fronts on Walsh Avenue, and lots 5 and 6 have a C1 zoning, which is the neighborhood commercial, and they front on West Live Oak Street, which I guess isn't technically right because there is driveway access that fronts on South Milam for the larger lot that remains. So this particular plat has a mix of zoning. It's R1 single family residential for the lots that front on Walsh, and it's C1 neighborhood commercial for the larger 2 lots. The overall property is approximately 2.42 acres, and there are the 2 roadways, which is Walsh Avenue and West Live Oak, as well as the South Milam Street portion there. Utilities are available to serve the property, and an extension of existing infrastructure will be, if necessary. The extension of the infrastructure will be extended at the developer's expense. There are standard easements such as right-of-way and utility easements. Detention will be addressed as part of the construction plans. There is a requirement for park dedication based on the new lots, so it's for 5 lots as opposed to the existing 6. And the parkland fees shall be paid prior to recordation of each phase of the project. And construction plans will be required as part of the final plat, and all development will be subject to approval of the construction plans. So overall, staff recommends approval based on the park dedication fees, $500 per lot, resulting in $2,500 paid prior to recordation, addressing staff comments, approval of the final plat, and approval of civil construction plans.
Question.
Yes, sir.
To me, those would be ideal R2 lots. Is there any reason we can't jump from 1 to 2?
That would require a different application and a public hearing to go through the zoning as well as potentially a land use change. And if that is something that the applicant would like to pursue, we could bring that application before the commission and council.
And that's a beautiful.
I thought we considered that when we did this.
Because originally the request was for the entire thing to be C1, and it was staff's recommendation to go R2, but the motion was made for R1, and then that's what city council agreed with.
They faced R1.
All R1s, and we were concerned about as R2s, they could be STRs easily because they're outside the historic.
But my concern is that we don't have our traditional buffer between commercial and residential. We have an R2 back right up to a commercial.
Yeah, but it's a C1. I mean, it's a neighborhood commercial. It's not a huge thing. And our concern when we approved this before and why we didn't accept everything on R2 was because the R2s could be STRs by right. and R1s could not.
Just one STR.
But still, we were concerned when we approved this before about them being. Sorry.
And I have a
Just
question.
reminding you of our previous discussion.
I don't read plans very well. Is there going to be any access of these two commercial lots onto South Milam Street? Or is the entry and egress going to be someplace else?
There's an existing driveway on lot 6
On,
onto South Milam.
I understand.
Yes, sir. And at the moment, that's all that's proposed.
Now, lot 5, doesn't it need its own access to Live Oak? Because it's
Isn't
Live
lot 5 the corner?
No.
What you're seeing there is a 26-foot wide easement. It's not an actual roadway that's built out.
Right, it's an old city easement that's been there for a long time.
But lot 5 has frontage onto West Live Oak Street.
Right.
And it's vacant at this time.
So they can put their cut on Live Oak.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Trying to keep too many curb cuts on the Milam.
Yep.
As we go along.
Milam.
Milam. There's already one curb cut in Milam.
I understand.
But no more.
One more. Thank you.
Would they be allowed to have a curb? Would lot 5, the Milam's fronting lot, be allowed to have a curb cut onto Live Oak also?
Are
You mean
you
lot
asking
6?
Lot 6, yeah.
They would be entitled to one on this side as
It's a
well.
big enough lot.
So just out of curiosity, did you say again what you were proposing to build there? You mentioned something about your wife and I work with, you and your wife work with a nonprofit.
Yes, sir. A pregnancy resource center,
Okay.
otherwise known as a crisis pregnancy center, but actually we do a lot more than crisis pregnancy. It's locally it's known as a mom center.
Oh, the mom.
Some of you might know about that. Yeah,
That's over at San Antonio and Milam. It's been over there.
No.
it was at one time, but they moved to industrial just right over here. Yeah.
Shelby, I have a question about the engineering questions on the list. You mentioned the development items, but can you address the 2 engineering items and whether those have been responded to yet or not?
Staff has received a response to comments. Unfortunately, I'm not prepared to answer the questions.
But Evan might be.
Thank you, Evan.
Because I spoke with a civil engineer for this project and we're in agreement on how to move forward with those. So those comments have been addressed in my opinion and will be further wrapped up in the review of the civil construction plans.
So they're addressed.
To your satisfaction.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Anybody else?
I move we approve.
Second.
A motion by Polly, second by Tom. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Carry on. Sir. All right, let's go to number 3, approval of the minutes. Anybody have any corrections or additions to that?
I have no corrections.
I make a motion we approve.
Oh, let her do that.
Yeah.
A motion by,
Cut her off, she was gonna come up with a problem.
I couldn't find one.
motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Polly. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to item number 6, the director's report. Anna?
Really just have one item to report, and that's the update on our comprehensive plan survey. Reached out to the consultants this morning, and they said we had 996 respondents to the survey.
That's good. That's a lot better.
Is that the ones who found the QR code?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Do we know how many of those live in the city as opposed to outside?
We've not seen. They've not run the report for us yet. Yeah.
And 954 of them want to go home.
I thought that was all soccer field.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of going paperless is probably a very great idea to save a lot of time. And I'm going to try. I'm going to try to just do it with my minutes,
Right ahead.
just to have the agenda.
My dying breath.
You're in dying breath, you're going to. So I encourage everybody to try to do it without having to throw away all this paper and color printer stuff. So,
I'll try it again. I just had trouble with the maps and stuff on the screen. That's
this
all.
one is a lot better.
So
New
It just-
program's a lot better.
But you know, it depends on what format they submit it in and everything as to whether it ends up being the moment you blow it up, it starts getting grainy and you can't see it. So as long as they're crisp, but I'll just ask you for a paper copy of something I can. If I can't see it, I'll.
So will we have access, we'll have tablets?
They haven't put that in the budget yet.
Oh, so we're coming here, we won't have a packet.
You can,
We will have read it and we will have memorized it before we got here.
I'm just looking.
If you don't have a tablet, you can ask for it.
Sure.
As well.
I know. I'm the half and half.
Janice, you can
We'll
be,
ask them to put it in the budget next year. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try with just the agenda.
well, then I would ask, what would be the difference in cost between printing
And a tablet.
12 packets?
We'll
Every
have to
month.
look at that. Every month instead
every
of
month.
having a tablet.
Versus a tablet.
Basic tablet costs you about 110 for a Surface.
It's one of them considered.
You too?
I do as well. I was gonna say something we supposedly said a year back.
I want to know.
She may not get it right either.
That's right. Yeah, my memory may fail.
The Georgia Pacific Paper
You need
Company is
younger people on this
lying.
commission, and then you can get rid of paper.
You're absolutely right about that.
That's
Hey,
an
Jeff and I
agent
resent that
statement.
remark.
Yes. Some of them are not quite as hard-headed either. Thank you very much.
Jeff would probably do much better with that paper.
No,
No?
no, I want paper.
I think we probably ought to make a motion to adjourn this before we get ourselves in trouble.
Mr.
Mr. McCamey is over here.
You have a motion?
I
You
made
making
that
that
motion. Let's
motion?
adjourn this puppy.
All right, do you have
I'll
a second? Second by, who is that now? Oh, Cindy.
Cindy,
All right.
all in favor?
All in favor? I'm sorry.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion